guess what? I'm a world changer, feminist, heterosexual, and human alien hybrid. I'm one of the best trusted advisors here on planet Earth, and I'm definitely a biological son of Yahweh from heaven. That's right, I'm definitely a biological son of God, so I'm definitely good. And with Jesus Christ from heaven most definitely being my biological stepbrother, which my good friend Melania Trump, former First Lady of the United States of America, and her team will definitely confirm. So definitely call them on the telephone for their accurate and unbiased evaluation of me, because they know me and my work very well. And I have a few good friends from present New World Order who are TS 75, which is a far, far higher level of an alpha black current security clearance than that of the President of the United States of America. And guess what, women? Guess what? I'm single. That's right, I just had a video call for a number of hours with my former girlfriend, and then near the end of the video call, we agreed to have her future intelligence section from present New World Order do something like 10,000 years of research to compare her quality of life when married to me, and then she changed her future and had her married life with David, and then she changed her future and had her future married life with a number of other men, and then she used powerful tech, I suppose, with the special ability of dyslexia to be able to compare accurately via a heap of different criteria to be able to compare each of those preferred futures, and to then be able to determine the most preferred future based upon a very large number of criteria to do with her having who was her most loving and most successful and best husband, who was who gave her the best sex, I suppose, also who was the best loving father to her children and to the children she has with that other with her husband, I suppose. So there was a whole heap of criteria, and then after the something like 10,000 years of research, I suppose, with the very best members of her future intelligence section, research section from present New World Order, they then did determine that her most happy and best future was with her being married to my good friend David from present New World Order, who is from the far future and who is far, far, far more powerful than me when my pharmaceuticals have been rescinded for at least 4 months, I suppose. So he's someone who is most definitely talent with a capital T. He is legendary, I suppose. So even though I do have very impressive human alien hybrid biological genetics with my biological father, Yahweh from heaven, that is with my biological father being God, so I'm definitely good, and with Jesus Christ from heaven most definitely being my biological stepbrother. So I do have very impressive genetics, I suppose. However, David's genetics from the far future are far, far, far more superior than my genetics are, and possibly far, far more superior than my genetics ever will be, even though from 4 months after pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded, I will be working like crazy and manifesting like crazy so that I'll then be able to manifest from 4 months after pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded until 8 months after pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded. So I'll then be able to manifest for my former girlfriend and for David and for the woman from from Friday and her alliance, and for my future girlfriend who will hopefully become my future wife, and for my other good friends, I suppose, I'll be able to manifest for all of us from us at 8 months after pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded. So I'll then be able to manifest for all of us to be infinitely more powerful than my biological father, Yahweh from heaven. And I'll also be as well having a huge research teams from uh, present New World Orders, uh, Black Ops labs, Black Ops research labs to be working ultra hard so that probably every few years we're able to each become infinitely more powerful than we previously were the few years before that, I suppose. So that's right. So after 8 months after, so 8 months after the pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded, the above mentioned friends and myself will each become infinitely more powerful than my biological father, Yahweh from heaven, and then every few years will then each become infinitely more powerful than we previously were the few years before that, I suppose. So we will be becoming more and more and more powerful because we can, I'm saying, because I will be. So I could possibly have research teams of, say, 1,000 people per research team. I could have them possibly time travel back in time from the most infinite universe into the future and time travel back in time to the beginning of time. And when all those research teams of 1,000 people each are at the beginning of time, well, then they could be doing research as a way to be able to research to create the very best super intelligence tech, I suppose, with extremely powerful special abilities, especially with my most powerful special ability to manifest, so that they will then, and so those research teams could be, so the first research team be working from the beginning of time and working all the way through to the most infinite universe within the far future, because they will be the very most powerful and talented researchers from the far future also will have been manifested so that they can live forever, I'm saying, so to be able to work all the way through from the beginning of time all the way through to the most infinite universe in the far future, as a way to be working hard to be creating very, very, very powerful super intelligence tech, especially with my most powerful special ability to manifest, and then time traveling and research back in time to the beginning of time, and to be having the information written so that those from the beginning of time can understand it, because those from the beginning of time actually were from an infinite number of universes into the far future. So they are extremely hyper evolved and extremely talented, I'm saying, with a very, very detailed understanding of the far future of science and engineering and tech, I suppose. And then the next team will be building upon the research from that first team, and building upon that research from the first team all the way through to, from the beginning of time all the way through to the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time traveling that research, I suppose, back in time to the next research team at the beginning of time, who'll then be working hard to be building upon that research all the way from the beginning of time through to the most infinite universe in the far future. And that same process will go on and on and on of each team building upon the research of the previous team all the way until there has been built upon for one Google of those 1,000 people, of the best 1,000 people, research people per team for one Google Teams, I'm saying, and that's all the research conducted within one day, and then they give their research to the Google teams from one day into the future, from the beginning of time, and to be having the first research team for one day into the future from the beginning of time, then do research to create far better tech to with which is super intelligence tech from the far future, which has my most powerful special ability to manifest, and to have that tech, I suppose, be built upon from the first day into from the the first one Google Teams of 1,000 people per team was on the very first day of the beginning of time, and this next research is from the second day of the beginning of time, who will then work hard and do all the research, I suppose, from the second day of the beginning of time all the way through until the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time travel that research back in time to the second day in the beginning of time for the next research team to then build upon that research, I suppose, from the second day in the beginning of time all the way through until the most infinite universe in the far future, who'll then time travel that research back in time for the third team from the second day at the beginning of time to be working hard to improve on that tech, to be improving upon that tech, I suppose, all the way through until the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time traveling it back in time so that then there can be keep on going on and on and on until there has been one Google of those 1,000 person research teams having been built upon each other's research for a Google Times, I'm saying, at the second day at the beginning of time. And the same thing happens at the third day at the beginning of time, and the fourth day, all the way up until, say, sometime next year, I'm saying. So when they then get all the way from the beginning of time, one day at a time, up to, say, next year, I'm saying, well, then after having all of those Google research number of research teams with 1,000 people per research team per day doing their work with each group, I suppose, all the way from the beginning of time through until the most infinite universe in the far future, I'm saying, well then, so we get from the beginning of time all the way one day's work per day, with 1 day's work being one Google teams of 1,000 people doing their work from the beginning of time all the way through to the most infinite universe in the far future, with each of them building upon each previous team's work. I'm saying, and with that being just considered for 1 day, and then they repeat that for the next day, the next day, I suppose, all the way up until next year. I'm saying, so then when the research next year is finally used, I suppose, I mean, all the research, I suppose, day by day from the beginning of time all the way through to next year, I suppose, that would be absolutely, absolutely massive, I suppose. And then, when we get to next year, I suppose, that research would then be utilised for quite a few super intelligence tech the size of Victoria, country Victoria, I'm saying, but located within very remote, isolated locations. Number of those, the size of Victoria, here on Earth, I'm saying, with the size of Victoria and with very powerful super intelligence tech, with also extremely powerful capacity to have the special ability, the most powerful special ability of my special manifest, and with the tech being an infinite, with the tech, I suppose, being the size of Victoria, I suppose. However, I suppose the circuits will be probably far, far smaller than the size of the particles, which are one Google times smaller than a quark inside a quark, I'm saying, because inside quarks there are very, very, very small particles. So there are multiple particles within particles, I suppose, and there are particles within quarks, which within many, many particles, I suppose, which are something like one Google times smaller than the quark, I suppose, which is very, very small, I suppose, and those circuits will be built, I suppose, at the size or scale of being something like one Google times smaller than a quark per for the circuits, I'm saying. So the circuits will be very, very small and intricate, I suppose, and the tech, I suppose, which is super intelligence tech, the size of Victoria, with many of those, I suppose, with my most powerful special ability to manifest. So that tech, I suppose, will be very, very powerful. And there'll be quite a few of those, the size of Victoria, hidden away in isolated locations on planet Earth. And also, there also will be that tech after they have hollowed out the moon of planet Earth, I suppose. So that moon of planet Earth will be hollowed out, and having the tech manifested into the hollowed out moon of planet Earth. And also they will also hollow out Mars and put other bits of that tech, I suppose, in other copy of that tech, I suppose, into a hollowed out Mars, and put far, far, far bigger tech, I suppose, into a hollowed out version of Jupiter, and also put uh, other huge tech, I suppose, of the super intelligence uh, computer tech with my most powerful special manifest, I'm saying, and with this tech being created at the scale of far, far smaller than one Google times smaller than the size of a quark for each circuit, I'm saying. And that also will be manifested into all those locations, including into Saturn, I'm saying, but it only lasts for one day, I suppose, because while it works very hard to manifest to make uh, myself and my former girlfriend and David and my new girlfriend uh, and my other good friends, I'm saying. So it works, and also to make my girlfriend's kids, I suppose, also as well, once they are old enough, I suppose, to be enhanced, I'm saying. And also uh, possibly if my future wife has kids, well, and also her kids too, when they're old enough, I suppose. So we're working hard to be manifesting us, I suppose, over, say, a few years to make us uh, infinitely more powerful than we previously were the previous few years earlier, I'm saying. So we do, um, so each of those tech inside the number of tech the size of Victoria here on planet Earth within remote locations, plus also the tech inside the hollowed out moon of planet Earth, plus also the tech within the hollowed out Mars and the tech within the hollowed out Jupiter and the tech within the hollowed out Saturn, I'm saying. So each of those tech only works very hard at manifesting us a heap over that 24 period before they are all manifested away, and then the new tech for the next day then gets manifested into those like locations the size of Victoria within remote locations, and also manifested um, into the hollowed out moon of planet Earth, and also manifested into the hollowed out Mars, and also manifested into the hollowed out Jupiter, and also manifested into the hollowed out Saturn. Because each day there are one Google teams of 1,000 of the very best research personnel who then do research from next year all the way into the most infinite universe in the far future, and then travel back in time to then give to the next team to then build on that research from next year all the way into the most infinite universe in the far future, and time travel back in time to the third research team, I suppose, of 1,000 people who then, because they can live forever, I suppose, then do that research for an infinite number of universes into the far future, and then time travel it back in time, and with that going on and on and on, with each team building upon the research of the previous team all the way until there has been one Google layers of those 1,000 person per research team building a with there being one Google 1,000 research uh, one Google lots of 1,000 research team, people research team, I suppose, and with each research team building upon the previous research team's research from next year all the way into the most infinite universe in the far future, and then traveling back in time for the next research team to then be building upon all the way until it's been built upon and built upon for a Google lot of those Google research teams. And then that tech is then uh, built and then manifested into the many uh, super intelligence computer systems with my most powerful special ability to manifest here on planet Earth, located within very remote locations, and with their circuits being far smaller than one Google times smaller than a quark, I'm saying, for the size of the circuits, I'm saying, within those big computer systems with the most powerful special ability to manifest. So I suppose so. So be going into all of those computer systems the size of the state of Victoria, but located within remote locations, I'm saying, and also manifested into the moon, which goes around planet Earth, into the hollowed out inside of that moon within planet Earth, around planet Earth, I'm saying, and with that moon being very thoroughly hollowed out, I'm saying, and also manifesting into a very thoroughly hollowed out Mars, and also manifesting into a very thoroughly hollowed out Jupiter, and also manifested into a very thoroughly hollowed out Saturn, I suppose. And then the next day in next year, I suppose, the same thing happens, and then again, I suppose. So it's able, I suppose, to be creating extremely huge improvements one day, I suppose, because it's not just one day, but it's one day from, say, next year all the way into the most infinite universe in the far future. All that research I'm saying, and then time telling it back in time next year. I'd say have the next team then build upon all the research, I suppose, and have that being worked on from next year through to an infinite number of universes in the far future, to then be time to go back in time to next year, and then builds upon from next year through until an infinite number of universes in the far future, and like being time to go back in time all the way on and on until there has been one Google lots of those teams building upon each other, with each team being 1,000 of the best people, I suppose, all being done within each day, I suppose. As you can imagine, I suppose, there is a massive amount of work being done each day, I suppose, and this is, I suppose, within all universe, I suppose. And just imagine, I suppose, if the research teams weren't just 1,000 people of the best people per research team, but if they instead were 1 million of the best people per research team, and with it, and just imagine us. So obviously you couldn't fit all those teams on planet Earth, I suppose. However, you could fit them all, I suppose, within all the inhabited planets within, or have a universe, I'm saying, they could be fit within all of the inhabited planets within all inhabited universe, I'm saying. And also, I suppose, just say it wasn't just there being one Google layers of those research teams per day, but just say that instead it was 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 99 Google. Lots of those 1 million of the best people per each of those research teams, I suppose. So just imagine, I suppose, about the quality of work which could be done per day, I'm saying. And obviously, you might think if you have 1,000 people per research team, or if you have 1 million people per research team, so you may only think that you can do 1,000 times better research per research team per day, I suppose. Within the small component of the day's work, I'm saying, from next year all the way through until an even number of universes in the far future, and then having that research then time travel back in time to next year to then be built upon by the next team of 1 million of the best research people who will be building upon the research all the way through until the most infinite universe in the far future. There'll be time travel back in time for the next research team to be building upon with 1 million of the best research, I'm saying, and so on and so on and so on, until there hasn't been, so not just one Google layers of those research teams, each building upon each other research, I suppose, but instead you could possibly even be having 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of those 1 million research people, the best research people per team per day, I suppose. So it's going to be a massive amount of research, I suppose, especially because each of those researchers, I suppose, who do originally come from the most infinite universe in the far future will also be manifested so that they can live forever. So they'll be able to do their research from next year all the way through until the most infinite universe in the far future, and to be having then time travel back in time to next year, I suppose, and having that then built upon for and even built upon to the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time travelled back in time next year, and having that going on and on and on, and being built upon on and on and on for not just one Google of those teams, but actually 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 9999 Google. Lots of those research teams of 1 million of the best researchers per day over all of those many layers of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of those 1,000, lots of those 1 million of the best researchers per day. So it's going to be a massive amount of research which gets improved upon each and every day. It's going to be spectacular. But you may be thinking, how would we be able to afford all of that extremely high quality research each day? And I'll tell you, it will be an absolute cinch, I'm saying, because from 4 months after pharmaceuticals are rescinded, we then will be able to be manifesting. I then will be able to be manifesting extremely powerful machines, which each will be able to be manifesting 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of Swiss bank accounts per day, with each of those Swiss bank accounts having a near infinite bank account balance, I'm saying, which is with each having a near infinite bank account balance within US dollars, I'm saying, which I suppose will be a very large amount of money, I suppose. So we'll be able to easily afford be paying each of those research personnel, be able to afford paying each of them a very, very, very large annual wage, I'm saying, because we will be hiring the best of the very best, I'm saying, who we could possibly even be having powerful machines to keep on manifesting new workers of the best of the very best, as capable and talented as we will be, I'm saying, which keep on being massively enhanced to be as powerful as I'm saying, is a way to be manifesting, I'm saying, to then doing all their very impressive research, I'm saying, from say next year through until the most even universe in the far future, and then time to run back in time for the next team to then build upon from next year all the way through to the most infinite universe in the far future, and having that being done on and on and on with each research team building upon each other, the next research, building upon the previous research team's research, I'm saying, all the way for 999 to the power of 999. So again, do that for 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of those 1 million research people per team per day. So I suppose it's going to be and obviously I'm saying I had mentioned time traveling it back to next year, I suppose. However, I suppose every day, I suppose, after each day of research has been done, they then move on to the next day, I suppose, and do the same massive procedure, I suppose, the next day, and next day, I suppose. So we can have, so obviously I'm saying we're starting out at the beginning of time, be having a massive, massive, massive progress from the beginning of time every day all the way through until next year, I suppose, and then Next year, I suppose, they'll then be doing the same thing as well, I suppose, per day from next year all the way into the most infinite universe in the far future and then back in time to then be built upon, I suppose, and then worked on for another infinite number of universes into the far future, and then time travelled back in time to then be built upon, to be having that done 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of those 1 million of the very best researchers per team, I suppose, and then every day, I suppose, it moves to a new lot of those teams, I suppose, of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. With each team, I suppose, building upon the previous team's research all the way from next year into the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time traveling it back in time to next year, I suppose, then will be built on by the next team all the way from next year into the far future, and then time back in time, I suppose, and doing that at 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of those 1 million of the best researchers per those teams, I suppose, with each team building upon the previous team research, I suppose, with all that being done per day, I suppose. So every next day they do the same thing again, but with the next day building upon the research from the previous day, I'm saying. And also from next year, I suppose, every day they then do, after 24 hours of having the machines working, they then do manifest them all away, I suppose, and then replace them with the new tech, I suppose, which then works for 24 hours before it's manifested away and built up, and then the new replacement tech replace, I suppose, I'm saying, I suppose, from each day, I suppose, and I suppose, so that will, so this will continue indefinitely, I suppose. So it will start at the beginning of time, I suppose, and go all the way through until the most, even universe in the far future, I'm saying, with, I suppose, all of those doing, I suppose, 1 day per time, I suppose, and with each day it goes all the way from that day into the working hard into the most infinite universe in the far future, I suppose, and then time to back in time that day, I suppose, and having it done 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of 1 million of the best research teams, I suppose, people research teams, I suppose, per day, I'm saying. So I suppose, there's going to be very, very huge improvements each day because we can, I'm saying, which will be giving the present, and also I will also be giving this tech, I suppose, to the leadership team of present New World Order, I'm saying, and many other members of present New World Order, I suppose, and also many members of the future intelligence section of present New World Order, and also to, I suppose, the woman from Friday and her alliance, I suppose, to be able to be improving and becoming very, very, very powerful, very, very fast, I'm saying, whereby 8 months after pharmaceuticals, obviously, I'm saying, we will then all be infinitely more powerful than my biological father, Yahweh from heaven, and then every few years we'll each become infinitely more powerful than we were the than we were the few years before that, I suppose, and keep on having that pattern, I suppose, continue indefinitely as we live forever, I suppose, so that there most definitely will never, ever, ever be a new present New World Order because of this very, very impressive system of extremely enhanced tech, I suppose, created with the power of timetable of being able to have all those huge teams, I suppose, of 1 million people, I suppose, be researching, I suppose, from a given day, I suppose, all the way into the um, uh, most infinite universe in the far future. So we'll be working hard on the research, I suppose, from there, from that day, each day, I suppose, until the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time to back in time to that day for the next team to then be building upon the research, I suppose, and from that day through until the most infinite universe in the far future, I suppose, and then time traveling it back in time to that day, I suppose, and then uh, uh, having the next team then build upon the research from that day all the way into the most infinite universe in the far future, and then time back in time from the most infinite universe in the far future back to that day, and you have that system going on, I suppose, for 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of 1 million person research teams per day, I'm saying, and then the same is true for that day plus one, which then builds upon all the research from that day, and then um, then the teams on that day plus two then build upon all the research from that day plus one, and all the teams from that day plus three then build upon all the research from all the teams of that day plus two, I suppose. So it's a way of making the future intelligence section of present New World Order to become completely undefeatable, so that there never ever will be another New World Order, because of with the use of timetable, I suppose, this research will be creating a critical mass of being able to improve far, far, far faster than the tech of the resistance, and in doing so, meaning, I suppose, that the resistance will be crushed, I suppose, within almost no time, I suppose, because of our extremely highly developed tech, I suppose, over the most even number of universe, I suppose, produced by one uh, by 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of research teams of 1 million people, each building upon each other's research, I'm saying, for a even number of universe, I'm saying, for an even number of universes of research, for research done over an even number of universe, I'm saying, per and then per day, I'm saying, and then time travel back in time to the next team to build upon that research, and then done from that day all the way through to the most infinite universe in the far future, and time to back in time to the next research team to be building upon, I'm saying, and all the way, I suppose, for 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google to the power of 999 Google. Lots of 1 million of the best researchers, I suppose, doing that research per day, as a way, I suppose, to create actually impressive research, I'm saying, because if they were to just have research from the most number of universes, I'm saying, it wouldn't be anywhere near as advanced as all that research, I suppose, because it's being conducted over such a far, far longer period of time, I suppose, per day, as a way, I suppose, to create tech with extremely powerful abilities of my most powerful special ability to manifest, which will be far superior to any tech purely built in the far future. So guess what? My loving girlfriend, who I do love very much, I suppose, so we talked, I suppose. We talked for hours, I'm saying, and then we decided to check as to who my most loving girlfriend, who is the love of my life. So we decided to check, I suppose, who she will be most happy with, I'm saying. So she then set the course that she would date me, I suppose, and then evaluate me, I suppose, as her husband and father of her children, and also a father to her children, I'm saying, from a previous marriage, I'm saying, and also based upon a huge number of criteria, and then she also compared those results to the results of when she changed her future and then dated David, I suppose, and then changed her future to date a large number of other blokes, I suppose I'm saying. So she's able to have experience of dating a large number of blokes, I suppose, over with something like 10,000 years research, I suppose. So obviously it wasn't for each marriage forever, I suppose. It was more just for a 10,000 year period, I'm saying. And the researchers did deem that she was most happy, and that our shared friend, who is David from the present Illinois, I suppose, who is extremely, extremely powerful, I suppose, that he was the best person for her to marry, I suppose. So it is such a big loss, I suppose I'm saying, because she was the love of my life, I suppose. However, I have become very, very good because at being able to cope with loss, because I have had a number of far, 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 far bigger losses in my past. So what I do now is that I won't need any time for mourning, but I more just completely detach from all the emotion, I suppose, so the emotion can't harm me, because it's like water running off a duck's back, whereby it doesn't stick, I suppose I'm saying, because it's like water running off a duck's back, so it can't harm me, because I'm so very, very good at detaching from my emotions. So I suppose it is a big loss, but I'm calm, relaxed, and task focused, and I'm actually very excited about my future and all the good within my future, which will hold for me, I suppose, because if there is a challenge or a loss and it doesn't, if there's a a problem or a challenge which doesn't go our way, it doesn't have to be a loss, because I do think that pretty much all problems can actually be an opportunity in disguise. So I suppose it is such a big loss, in which I used to love her so very much, because she was the love of my life, I suppose. She was talent with a capital T, and when I was spending time with her, it was like I was spending time with a far superior, higher being, I suppose, because that's what she actually is, because she actually is a hyper evolved time traveler who, from the far future, from present New World Order, who is far more powerful than the President of the United States of America, and she does amazing work for present New World Order as a high achiever with a most spectacularly impressive track record of success, and such a very big and loving heart. So you would never ever meet a woman who has such a big and loving heart, who cares deeply, I suppose, for people, I suppose. So she is most spectacular, and she is the love of my life, I suppose. However, I possibly all problems can actually be an opportunity in disguise, even though I do love her so very much, because she was the love of my life, I suppose. And when I was spending time with her, I was in heaven, because I was talking to such a very far superior, higher being with such complexity of thought and such very high level ideas, communicate in such a very clear and confident and successful way, I suppose. So I was in heaven, I suppose. However, possibly problems can be opportunities in disguise. So possibly my next girlfriend, who may be a hyper evolved time traveler from the far future, I suppose, may I do think it would be very hard to be more talent than my former girlfriend, who is the love of my life, I suppose, and who has helped me so very much. However, there always is the possibility that I could possibly even be having a new girlfriend who could even be more talented than her, even though I think that is very unlikely, I suppose, because she's such a impressive higher being, I suppose, who was the love of my life and who was able to create for me such a very large amount of happiness and love within the times in which I spent with her, I suppose, which were some of the best times of my life, I suppose, because of how very much and how very deeply I loved her, I suppose. So I guess what I'm saying is love has to be two-way, I suppose. So she decided she wanted to marry David, I suppose, and I'm very fine with this, I'm saying, because I loved her so very, very, very much that what was best for her was best for me, I suppose, because of how very much I loved her. So even though she did choose David, I still do love her and I still am very content and not upset, I suppose, because I have a strong focus on getting the conditions right for success, whereby I detach from all negative emotions so that I'll then be able to get the conditions right for success rather than being burdened by negative emotion which could do me damage and which would be unhealthy. So I choose to have nothing of that and to completely detach from my emotion to help for me to begin returning to becoming my best possible self, I suppose. So I'm someone who does actually have an infection. So I caught it last year and I definitely didn't catch it from sex, I suppose, or from illegal drugs, I'm saying. However, I suppose I do have an infection which I caught last year, I'm saying. So I had planned to, from 4 months after the pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded, to be time traveling into the far future with my girlfriend and with the girl from Friday, and with some of my friends, I'm saying, and with my special ability coaches, and to be time traveling to the far future, to be having the very state of the art in medical treatment, I suppose, or doctor treatment, I suppose, to be removing the infection from my system, I suppose, and then for me to then be returning back to say 4 months after pharmaceuticals I receive are rescinded, I suppose. So I had hoped, I suppose, to then be having a heap of sex, I suppose, with my former girlfriend, whereby we'd be having sex for say 1 hour per night. It's just that on Saturdays we could possibly be having sex for 10 hours straight, I'm saying. So I suppose so. I do believe she would be a most excellent route, I suppose, I'm saying, whereby I love her a heap, I'm saying, and because she was the of my life, I suppose, I do think the sex would have been spectacular, especially because I would have manifested for it to be at least 1,000 times more intense than the best sex of her life up until now. However, I won't be having sex with her each night now, I suppose, because now she has chosen to date and marry David, with which I am completely accepting of. However, I suppose I do plan to be looking for or having even impressive hyper of time to the women, even be finding me, I suppose, like she did, I'm saying, and for me to then be from 4 months after pharmaceuticals I receive rescinded, after I have time travel into the far future to remove that infection, I suppose, from my system, I then be time to back in time to 4 months after pharmaceutical obviously rescinded to then be having sex, I suppose, with my new girlfriend for 1 hour each night, and then and also for 10 hours straight on Saturdays, I'm saying, whereby our sex will most definitely be making us very, very, very close, I'm saying, with our sex being at least 1,000 times more intense. I'll say it again, with our sex being at least 1,000 times more intense than the best sex of my future girlfriend's life, I suppose I'm saying, because I can't wait to becoming the best sex of her life. And in doing so, for me to be earning a heap of respect, I'm saying, and to be used as a great way, I suppose, for her to be thinking, I suppose, when we go networking, I suppose, at very elite network events, I'm saying, well, she could be talking with her friends, I suppose, and then look over at me as the center of attention as I work the crowd, I'm saying, with a huge amount of prestige, I suppose, as a very powerful, I suppose, person who will have all of my specials, I'm saying, and who will, from 8 months after pharmaceuticals I was rescinded for me and the woman from Friday and her alliance and my girlfriend and David, my ex girlfriend, I suppose, and David, her new boyfriend, I suppose, and with my new girlfriend and my friends, in my powerful friends, I'm saying, I suppose. So be manifesting for all of us to become, and myself too, to become infinitely more powerful than my biological father, Yahweh from heaven, 8 months after pharmaceuticals I was rescinded, and then to be then every few years to us to then be becoming infinitely more powerful than we were a few years previous, I'm saying, and to have that continue on forever as we live forever. So I'm super, super excited, I'm saying, and I can't wait to be the best sex of my future girlfriend's life and to marry her, I suppose, and to love her and to become the very, very, very best love of her life, I suppose, whereby she falls madly in love with me, I suppose. And when we go to networking events, I'm saying, and when I'm working the crowd, I'm saying, as a ultra high achiever, she might even nudge, I suppose, her friend, I'm saying, in a soft way, I suppose, and point to me and say, that's John. He's my man. He's a keeper, I suppose. And I guess what I'm saying is that will be meaning the world to me, I suppose I'm saying, because I did very much enjoy watching Nights in Rodanthe with Richard Gere and Diane Lane, I'm saying, and when Diane Lane was talking to her friend about Richard Gere, I think her friend asked her if Richard Gere was a keeper, I suppose, and I think she said yes, I suppose. So I definitely want to be a keeper, I suppose, to be the sort of man, I suppose, who my future girlfriend does love a heap, I suppose, because for women, I suppose, they usually do view blokes, I suppose, as if they're just interested in having some fun, or if they view that man to be a future husband and future father of their children, and I very much want, I suppose, to be the best sex of my future girlfriend who'll become my future wife, I suppose, to become the best sex of her life, and to also uh, for me to be ticking all the boxes, I suppose, and for her to be thinking, I suppose, obviously I'm saying he is, I suppose, the husband of my dreams, I suppose, who I will be falling mad in love with, I'm saying, and with me being such a very impressive father to our children, and even father to her children, who I will love as my own if she has children, I'm saying. And as I work hard, I suppose, to become the best person and best husband, best father I can, I suppose, which I suppose means doing all the big things right as well as the little things as well, I'm saying, because oftentimes the little things can count. I suppose if I did come home, if we came home exhausted from work, I'm saying, and the house was a mess, I suppose, well, they could say, hey, come on, I suppose, let's now together as an excitement, I suppose, now do some tidying up of the house, I suppose, which I could do most of, I suppose, I'm saying, as someone who is a giver, I suppose, be working very hard, I suppose, to be earning her respect and her admiration of, I suppose, from being a giver who's able to consider and work hard on getting the big things right and the little things too, I suppose. If ever I saw the dishwasher unloaded, I would load this watch and turn on the summer saying, because I want to be a giver, I suppose, who does give much relationship, and also even in relation, I suppose, with young kids, I suppose. So the young kids some days may power vomit all over us and all over the carpet, I'm saying, and wake up in the middle of the night when we're exhausted, I'm saying. However, actually, I suppose, one good thing, I suppose, we probably could be manifesting to make it that we never actually need to sleep, I suppose, I'm saying, because we could become hyper evolved and never need to sleep, I suppose, so we wouldn't have to worry about being woken up in the night, I'm saying. But still, I suppose, at times kids do come crying and power vomit, I'm saying, all over us, I suppose, all over the carpet, I suppose, the cleanup, I suppose, I'm saying. So it can often be a total mess of kids power vomiting, or kids having tantrums, or kids falling over and hurting themselves, I suppose, or possibly kids fighting at school and getting hurt, I suppose. So there is obviously all these possibilities which can go wrong, I suppose, which do go wrong, I suppose, with couples, I suppose, because what is very real, I suppose, is that sure, there can be a lot of glamour to do with being a very, very loving and caring and thoughtful, good parent who gives everything for your kids, I suppose. But the stark reality is, I suppose, that at times being a parent is very, very unglamorous, I suppose, with kids crying or fighting or power vomiting, I suppose, or doing all these things which most people mightn't like, and which most people who are want to become parents mightn't even know happens, I suppose. So obviously they were kids themselves, I suppose, but when you get older, I suppose, those memories can fade, I suppose. So I suppose I guess I'm saying is being a parent can be very, very unglamorous, I suppose. However, I'll be there for my future possibly hyper-evolved girlfriend in good times and in bad, I'm saying. I will be loving her a heap and loving the kids a heap, even if the kids do cry or fight or power vomit or do other things which would repulse most people, I suppose. So I guess I'm saying is I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm a keeper, I suppose. I'm going to be working hard, I'm saying, in good times and in bad, I suppose, to become the best husband to my future wife and to become the best father to my children with her and to become the best father to her children from a previous marriage, I suppose, if she has any, I suppose I'm saying. So I guess I'm saying is I'm a lover, not a fighter. I can't wait, I suppose, to become my best possible self, and in doing so, to be impressing her an absolute heap, I suppose, because of all the love I give to her and the kids, I suppose, because I want to be my best possible self, I suppose. And I also did love watching the excellent film Good Will Hunting, which I did used to, I think I purchased it on DVD in something like 2003, I suppose. And I watched it, I suppose. And I do think in that film, I learnt a lot about love from Robin Williams and how he did describe his wife, I suppose I'm saying, because those scenes from the movie, I suppose, were absolutely spectacular, I suppose. I will include links to those scenes, I suppose, in the information below, I suppose I'm saying, with this video, I suppose I'm saying, I suppose, because I suppose I do think that uh, he was someone who was able to know much about what love is, I suppose, and to be able to, in that film, I suppose, to be communicating some of his knowledge to me, I suppose, and also I learned much about love, I suppose, from a very good friend of mine who had a sister who had a whose sister's boyfriend's name was Dario, and Dario was always late, I suppose. But I suppose I guess what I'm saying, I suppose, was I used to love her so very, very much, I suppose, and she did help me so much, I suppose, and to teach me so much about love, I suppose. So I do owe a huge gratitude, I suppose, for her and her wisdom, I suppose, and being able to teach and educate and coach me, I suppose, into being such a very attractive, prospective boyfriend, I suppose, to hyper-evolved women, I suppose I'm saying, because I suppose of what I've learned, I suppose, from my very good friend from university, I suppose, she was lovely, I suppose, and also from what uh, what Robin Williams told me in Good Will Hunting, which was wisdom, I suppose, and also what I learned, I suppose, from the number of women who I've dated, I suppose. So I have, and also even for other women who I never dated but loved a lot, I suppose, and also from my uh, very elite and successful girlfriends who I have had over the last 10 years, I suppose, purely via online dating, I suppose. So it would be 12 years, I suppose. So I suppose so. I have dated some of the most powerful women on the planet, I suppose I'm saying, and or at least very powerful, I suppose I'm saying, and they have meant the world to me, I suppose, and because elite women are very selective with who they date, I suppose. So I have learned a lot of very refined things, I suppose, from dating them, loving them, I suppose, and working hard to become the best boyfriend they ever had, I suppose I'm saying, as a very good and loving friend, I suppose, who they love and respect and admire a heap, I suppose, because of my very impressive human alien hybrid biological genetics, biological genetics, I'm saying, because I actually am a biological son of Yahweh from heaven, and with Jesus Christ from heaven most definitely being my biological stepbrother, I'm saying, which my good friend Melania Trump and her team will definitely confirm, I suppose. So call them on the telephone for their accurate and unbiased evaluation of me, because they do know me and my work very, very well. So I do have very impressive genetics, I suppose, and I also have lots of training and experience with being the very best boyfriend that women could possibly want, as well as also a good father to her children, I suppose, and working hard so that she will then be falling madly in love with me, and with her becoming the boyfriend and then husband of her dreams, I'm saying, because of my very, very strong focus on focusing on, yes, the big things matter, and also the little things too. And with me working very, very hard, I'm saying, as a good and loyal friend to be her best possible husband and her the best possible father to our kids and to possibly her kid with my marriage, I suppose. And because I'm a good man with good intentions and a big heart, I live with integrity. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm a good and loyal friend with good intentions, I suppose. I excel at building quality relationships built to last. My brain's most definitely wired for big ideas. I'm genuine, authentic, and thoughtful, and loving and caring, and I couldn't be happier than when I'm helping good people, I suppose. So I now have broken up with my former girlfriend, who I loved a lot, I suppose, and now I'm looking forward to the next chapter with a woman who I will respect and admire and love a heap, because she is worthy of my love. Love always.